The Pro Show is brought to you by Rockin' Media and our proprietary Flash HDR photo process, providing you with the best, most realistic photos of your property. See the difference at rockinmedia.com. Welcome to the Pro Show. I'm Rick Machle, and on this show, we're talking about if you're thinking about buying during the holidays, what are some strategies around that? In addition, if you're looking at selling right after the holidays, now that we're into mid-December, what should you be doing right now in order to get ready for that? And we'll have a great home for sale, as well as Greg will be here talking about rentals, and Nancy's talking about mortgages. Like always, that's next on the Pro Show. We have a great panel here today from Coldwell Banker. These four ladies are awesome, starting with Carrie Holmes up in northern Colorado. Hi, Carrie. How are things going?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, awesome. And then Camelia Corey's on the other side, down on the southern part. How are things? Is it snowing down there?
Yep, it has started snowing. We have probably about an inch of snow, inch and a half of snow right now.
Making it look great for the holidays. And then Debbie Jacobs out of the Tech Center office down in the South Metro office. Hi, Debbie. How are things with you?
Good morning. Very well. We haven't gotten the snow quite yet, but we're expecting it today.
Well, awesome. And Jessica is back. Jessica Drummond out of the Parker office. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, how are you guys?
We are doing great, and I appreciate all of you being here today. We are going to start out and look at the numbers for November. These are month over month and provided to us by the Denver Metro Association of Realtors. And the median close price is down 1.68% month over month to $585,000. The closed homes is down 16% to 3,022 sales. The sales volume is also down 18% to 2.1 billion. The months of inventory is down 3.14% to 3.04 months, and the days in the MLS is up 11.54% to 29 days. A couple other great stats are active listings are down 14.9% to 9,310, which, if you know anything about our history, is still way up versus a couple of years ago. The new listings are way down, 41% month over month to 2,747, and pending sales are up 10.54% to 3,039. So, Debbie, are you seeing a lot of these same numbers? Does this seem to fit with what you're experiencing out in the market?
Yes. So what, pardon me, what I've seen is that end of November, we did really get a big bump in buyer activity right after maybe November 6th or so. And that extra 10% is those properties that have been under contract or have recently become under contract starting in November. So there still are a few great active properties that are in the tech center, but yes, I do see that big flush of buyer activity happened in November.
We also have numbers from the South Metro Denver Realtor Association, and these are for obviously the South Metro part. Pending sales are up 24%, new listings are up 1.3%, closed listings are up 10.4%, and median price are up 2.7%. These, however, are year-over-year numbers. The November pendings are at 2,912. New listings are at 2,569, which is essentially the same as what they were last year. And listings closed are 2,878 versus 2,606 last year. The median price is 580,000 versus 564,975 last year. And the days on market are up 29 from 23 last year. And we have 12.4 weeks on market, and that's the weeks of inventory. So we still have a pretty balanced market out there. And Jessica, this kind of covers your area. What are you thinking in the South Metro? You're experiencing a lot of the same feelings that we're seeing here?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I'd say from last year, it's slightly improved this year. At this time last year, we were kind of just coming into, some steeper rate hikes, whereas now I think buyers have adjusted their expectations of that. And so sellers who remain on the market at this time or enter into the market in this holiday season are kind of seeing, more activity pick up. So I would say that's how we're seeing the numbers of pending sales up just slightly from last year.
Well, that's awesome. And then if we head down to Colorado Springs, we have some new numbers here, and we are going to do month over month. So this month over month, new listings are down 36%. These are for single family and patio homes to 893 from 1,408. The sales are down 10% from 894 currently to 998 last month. The sales price is down from 553,014 from 557,741 a month ago. And then the median sales price is up, however, to 485,000 from 475,000. And the total actives are down 8.9% to 3,092 from 3,394. And the months of supply is at 3.5 months versus 3.4 months, so just slightly different. The condo market is a little bit different. The new listings are way down 32% month over month from 198 to 134 in November. And the sales are also down 30% from 110 in November versus 159 in October. The average sales price is down 3% to 342,556 from 353,312, and the median sales price is also up 2.8% to 344,500 from 335,000, and the total actives is down 7.7% from 591 from 640 in October, and then the months of supply is up to 5.4 months of supply versus 4 months in October. So, Camelia, tell me, what are you seeing as far as down there in the Springs? Things softening a little bit?
Well, we're moving into what we call the holiday season for real estate. And as you know, buyers that are needing a home are out there looking. So sellers should definitely have their homes ready, because the buyers today in this market, in this holiday season market, are serious buyers. No looky-loos. From a buyer's perspective, if you're wanting to buy a house, sellers are serious. If their house is on the market over the holidays and the winter months, they really want to sell. So it's a really great time to get probably one of the best deals you can all year long. So it's good. We certainly have a lot of people pulling houses off the market because of the holidays. But what's out there is great inventory if you're a buyer.
And Carrie, we don't have numbers for you yet this week, but tell me what you're seeing up in the northern Colorado area.
Well, just to piggyback on Camilla's comments, I would throw out there, if you are considering new construction, end of the year is the best time to buy. A lot of these builders want to get these homes off the market, off their books. So they're really willing to negotiate, maybe more so at this time of year than any other time of year. So if you're thinking new construction, you'll definitely want to get out there and start looking. You'll want to have a buyer's agent with you through the process, because if you go directly to the home builder, though, unfortunately, you don't have any representation, and they work actually directly for the builder. So definitely keep in mind, it's going to be important for you to work with a buyer's agent, even if you're looking at new construction. We are hitting that seasonal slowdown, as Camilla mentioned, but that's not to be unexpected, and buyers are serious this time of year.
It gives buyers a great opportunity. Showing your property at its best online is one of the first of many important steps to getting your home sold. At Rocket Media, we provide you with the best quality photos taken by staff photographers, not contractors, who process your photos individually. We use our proprietary Flash HDR process, which combines the natural look of HDR with the color accuracy of Flash, along with properly exposed windows. Rocket Media's HDR process is clearly exceptional. Find out more and schedule online at rocketmedia.com. Nancy and I have been talking about what you do if you've got an existing home and you haven't sold it yet, but you still want to buy your dream home and you can't afford to do both at the same time. You can't have 2 mortgage payments, 2 insurance costs, 2 property taxes. So are there programs out there, Nancy Alexander, who has been with us since the beginning of the Pro Show, giving us great mortgage advice? Are there programs out there that would help us get to the point where we can buy our new house and still sell the old one if they don't overlap or if there's overlapping time?
There are, Rick. It's and you're right. We've been having this great discussion because nowadays there are these companies. There's about a handful of them out there, and the product or the program is called Buy Before You Sell. So you're going to buy property B before you sell current property, which is property A. And whether you've got a debt to income issue, so in other words, you can't carry both mortgages, just like you said, Rick, or you don't want to, more importantly. Versus you need equity, and maybe you need both, and maybe you need either or. We're working with a client right now that doesn't need the equity out of his current house, but he's not able to carry both mortgages. So it's a DTI or debt to income issue. And so this company steps in and makes a commitment to purchase the home within a 120-day window. So your current agent stays as your listing agent. You continue to market the home to get it sold. If it hasn't sold in 120 days, now the company steps in, remarkets it, finds where the new comps are, right, and gets that property sold. So they're not carrying now your asset. So depending on, again, what you need, is it debt to income, is it equity, is it both? It's really kind of a neat program. And so far in working with this company, it's been delightful. They've been lovely. They've done everything they said they were going to do. Is there a cost, like you and I talked about, Rick?
Yeah.
When do you do a program that there isn't a cost, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're not hunting for equity, in other words, you have assets already in your checking, savings, money market, 401k, whatever that
to make the down payment on the new house.
Make the down payment, exactly. And you only need the DTI relief, then your cost is 1.5%.
Okay.
So like we said, if purchase price is say $750, 1.5% is right around 11,000. I think it's 11,250. That's your cost for using this. Really, you could look at it, you guys, as a transition team, right? And so that becomes your cost. If you need the equity and you want the company to give you the equity as well as give you the relief of the debt to income, now you're at 2.4%.
Okay.
Right? So again, like you and I talked about, Rick, you still have the cost of your real estate sale. In other words, whether you're paying your buyer's agent, your listing agent, but then you also have the cost of this transition team. So you have to determine how bad, obviously, how much do you want that property be to put this together. It's a creative way of doing it. We've had a lot of fun with it, and it's working beautifully.
So what's my worst case scenario? That I pay the money. I pay the money either way, right? I pay the 1.5 or 2+%.
And it's funny because I asked the representative of the company, I said, positive, 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 where's the negative?
Right.
Because like you and I talked about, if what is worst case, and if I can make that palatable, then I can take anything from there. So worst case scenario is that house still sits on the market. It's 120 days and price goes down.
Okay.
Right. You get that house sold. So does your net obviously go down as well? And the answer is yes. But what did you say when we were talking earlier? Why does a house sit on the market?
Right, because it's not priced right to begin with. And and this other company, they're probably gonna do their own appraisals, right, and their own, or they're gonna require you do and inspections and all that, so
Right.
they know what they're buying, right?
That's right, exactly, because it becomes their asset in 120 days. Now, if you sell it in that 120-day period, then they never come into play. They gave their commitment, they gave you the equity. Obviously, you owe them the equity back if it sells in the 120-day window and they never take the property over. But if they take the property over, why is a property sitting for 120 days?
Right.
The number one reason is price to begin with.
And so basically the way this works is they're guaranteeing you a buyer at 120 days.
Right.
But they may have to adjust the price at 120 days in order to get it sold, in which case you're going to make less money, less that 1.5%, 2+%, depending on what you're doing. But it's a way to make that transition and find your dream home and make the move, and with less worry that it's going to happen. And I mean, sometimes you have a 30-day close on property B, so worst case you're carrying the property A for 90 more days beyond that, correct? Yeah, so sounds like a great program. A little more complex than what we can do in a few minutes here. So definitely reach out to Nancy. I'm sure she'd love to talk to you more about this program. And of course, she'll consult with you about lots of other programs that are available that may be better than this for your particular situation. So as always, appreciate it, Nancy, and look forward to seeing you next week. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about selling during the holidays and what you want to do in order to get ready. And this week, we want to not only talk about buying during the holidays, but also talk about what is involved in if you decide to sell in January. Should you really be thinking about that now, given that we're in the middle of December? So let's start with some benefits of buying here during the holidays. And we'll start with Jessica this time.
Buying during the holidays is actually a fantastic time for the serious buyers who want to get possibly a good deal on a home, whether it's a resale and especially new construction, as it was mentioned earlier, because these are folks who need to sell. You know, there could be a job transfer in the a family change, whatever it might be, but sometimes the motivation's a bit higher at this time of year when sellers keep their homes on through the holidays. And also, there's just a really great opportunity to kind of see how the year has panned out and really understand, the dollars involved in the transaction and really get a good sense of what you need to be prepared for based on rates and all of that.
And Debbie, what do you think? What are some ideas if I'm looking at buying?
This is a great time for the investor to come in if you are looking to add to your real estate portfolio and you want to have maybe a rental or maybe something that might need a minor rehab or fix up. This is a great time because the properties that are still on the market are definitely negotiable usually, and it is a great time for that aspect as well.
And Carrie, you mentioned about buying new. Are they really motivated? Are the new builds and the builders interested in really making, those deals this time of year?
Absolutely. Obviously within reason, Rick,
Of
but
course.
they do want to get this off their books and off the market. So they do have goals that they have to meet. So especially at the end of the year. So it's definitely a motivation. And maybe it's not necessarily fully on price, but also closing costs, maybe refrigerators, blinds, window treatments, backyards, different things that are negotiable variables with builders for sure.
And Camelia, we've seen some homes that have been on the market a little bit of time, maybe a month or two. And obviously we're in a different season now. So what should I be thinking about as far as making offers as a buyer this time of year versus maybe in September, October?
Sure. Well, your competition is less. There's not as many people shopping during the holidays. And to the points that have already been made, the buyers that are out there right now are serious buyers. And so you certainly don't want to compete with another serious buyer if you don't have your ducks in a row. So if you find a house you really love, it's super important to have your financial wherewithal figured out, whether it's a cash purchase or if you're lending, working with a lender. So I would definitely say get all your ducks in a row. And with the interest rates on new construction, sometimes they've already purchased rates and have low interest rates. If it's a resale home, just know that sellers are willing to negotiate not only on price, but concessions so that you can buy those rates down. So I would say have your financial wherewithal together, know exactly what you're looking for, and get out there and start shopping, because the other buyers this time of year, there's fewer buyers, but they're all very serious buyers. So be watching what's out there. One thing that we don't always talk about that I would like to say is having a good agent will help you with this, is shopping the off-market properties that have just come off the market in November, maybe the end of October, sometime in November. These are sellers who've said, hey, we're going to pause for the holidays, we're going to pause for the winter months, come back on in the spring. So whatever process you have with your agent looking for properties, new construction or resale, if you have exhausted everything and still can't find what you're looking for and you really are needing that house, don't want to compromise, start shopping that terminated and expired side of the market, because you just might find that perfect home that you're looking for that has come off the market for a few months, and it'll hit back in the spring. You have way more competition in the spring, so why not shop during the winter months? So just a little hack there for you and your agent.
But that has to be done through an agent, because I can't go on Zillow and see all the expired listings, can I?
No, that's a good agent will guide you through that.
Okay.
And Rick, I wanted to throw out there to you, obviously we've mentioned the serious buyers, but also I want to comment that it's a great time of year for buyers to educate themselves as well. So maybe you're not quite ready to make the move in the next 30 days, but it's an excellent time to educate yourself on the neighborhoods that you like, get to know what you get for the money in the various areas, kind of fine tune. Because as we go through the new year, as that inventory starts to come on, it's really going to help you have an edge over the other home buyers that are just starting that process. So you'll be able to jump in and be ready to make that offer when that right property comes on the market for you.
Jessica, do you have any other tips as far as for buyers out there?
Just definitely be prepared when you are searching in this market, because sometimes there's little pockets, especially in my segment of the market here in the south end of town, that surprisingly there could be a bit of competition. It depends. I've seen some neighborhoods with only one house for sale. And, everyone's deciding, okay, now's the time to try to get a deal. So I have experienced a bit of competition. So just be prepared and be ready for that, possibly.
And part of that being prepared, Debbie, is probably being pre-approved and all that as a buyer, right?
Definitely pre-approved. And I think that you should really be focusing, the buyer really should be focusing on what they want their monthly payment to be, more so than focusing on the interest rate. But if they are getting educated about a particular neighborhood that they're interested in, what's really great is at the end of the year, you can look back for the entire calendar of 2024 and really see where the trending is for that particular neighborhood. And then that education piece is, speaking to I think what Camelia said as well, is that you really have a great idea of what to offer, what to expect. And the properties that are still available, let's say the last week of December, are definitely going to be discounted typically, or very motivated at the beginning of January. So if you find that pocket neighborhood that you absolutely love, great time to get educated and get in ready mode for beginning of the year.
Which is a great segue into, if I'm looking to sell toward the first of the year, maybe, right after the 1st, 15th, somewhere in there. Camelia, what should I be doing to get ready right now? It's like the middle of December already.
Right. Well, it's the holiday season and everyone's getting Christmas decorations out and getting ready for company and things like that. Or at least most people are, not everybody. But I think it's a really great time to start clearing out that storage room closet. Start, sending things to the thrift store. Start packing up some of your personal items that you don't need out. A lot of us take things off the shelf to put Christmas things up. So pack those away and don't get them back out come first of the year. But I think your mindset around the strategy would be, if I'm going to be listing in the spring, and people go, oh, I'm going to list first of the year. But really, first of the year is right in the dead center of winter. January 1 is probably not the best day to list if you're waiting for the new year. Waiting more towards the end of January, February-ish, depending on where you're at. Colorado has a lot of snow, and if you're in the mountain areas, it's a little bit different. You certainly have buyers all year long, so you don't want to hold off for no reason. But I say if you have to sell sooner than later, get on sooner than later. But if you're trying to hit that spring market, I would say preparing your home, getting it cleaned, fixing things, changing light bulbs, packing things up. It's never too early to start that process. So working with your realtor on the strategy of timing. There's always 5 pillars of strategy, and timing is the first one. And there's a lot of things that you can do before you actually hit the market.
But Carrie, if I have to get on the market, I should probably be getting pictures now if I want to get on the market early in the, early January, correct?
Well, I think you definitely want to meet with your realtor first.
Sure.
So you're going to have that conversation with them, and they're going to help you strategize because it is a process. And for me, in fact, I'm kind of at that stage with some sellers right now. Well, do we take pictures now or do we take pictures right before we're ready to go on the market? And what I say to that is, as long as the holiday decorations aren't up, then go ahead and take pictures. So we will be able to hit the ground running after the first of the year. For me, nothing worse than having those holiday seasonal pictures with maybe the Christmas tree up. And then it hits January 2nd and it looks like a stale listing. And that's something that we really don't want to encourage our clients to do at this time. So if the decorations aren't up, then yes, let's get the pictures. As far as the seasonality goes, I really love not having snow in the yard. So right now here in northern Colorado, we don't have snow yet. So by all means, let's take those great pictures so you can showcase the most of the home and the yard as possible.
I'll be up right after the podcast because the snow's probably coming your way.
Absolutely. We'll be talking.
But Jessica, if I'm looking to sell right after the first of the year, it's probably too late to get on to get my holiday decorations down. Shouldn't I, go ahead and have them down now and get the pictures done to get on right after the first?
I would encourage my sellers to absolutely try to do their best to temporarily move some of their decorations if time is of the essence for them to get moving. And, I would definitely be able to assist them with something like that just to get some great photos. There's always a little workaround, but I'd say it's never too late to get started. I mean, we can always work pretty fast to get you on the market if we need to.
Exactly. But Debbie, what do you normally like to have?
So I typically would say that it's about 2 weeks because I personally like to do a lot of pre-listing advertising and really get a lot of momentum and excitement around that particular listing. So I might do a video and possibly just temporarily move maybe some of the decorations that are in the foyer or maybe something that's at the front dining area, that type of thing. That might be easy to kind of avoid the large tree if that's something that I do want to do. Another piece of advice that I would give is that if you are looking to get on the market at the first of the year, now is a great time to schedule contractors to come and look at the property. Let's say you're going to do some painting or some type of updating. Now is a great time for them to come and look at the property and get on the schedule for the first of the year, because they are also a little slower, and that does give you an advance and being able to get on their calendar first thing for the next year.
And I know it's different for every home as far as how close they are to being ready or not, but let's just say I'm pretty much ready to go. I need some minor staging tips, that sort of thing. Jessica, what's your normal turn time from the time that I say, yeah, I'm ready to pull the trigger to when you really want to go on the market?
If there's been any advanced preparations or prior, understanding that maybe you have to sell your house, sometimes it can happen as quick as a week and a half to 2 weeks, and actually getting back the photos once the house is ready, which I'd say is the most timely part of the process. Getting back photos and getting the marketing prepared can be something done in just a few days. But I'd say the preparation part for the home itself is the most timely.
So
and it just depends on where you're at.
So Carrie, you're doing a lot of prep too. So you might even recommend, why don't we set up the holiday tree or the Christmas tree in the study this year, so we can actually do some other photos of the rest of the house. I've seen that happen as well.
Absolutely. As Jessica said, it's just all dependent on the particular situation. But as she mentioned, it can be as quick as a couple days, because frankly, we've all been in those homes that the sellers just live like a show home. And if that's the case, we can get in there and have you get those photos taken, Rick. And as soon as we get those back, we can go ahead and put it on the market, which is usually 24 hours. So, and if the seller is ready to start having showings, that's fantastic. As I like to say, you can't sell it if it's not on the market. So let's get it out there.
But it's, that's a big assumption that it's in show ready to begin with. So Camelia, what do you...
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what they're alluding to as far as Debbie and Jessica mentioned. There is some time to maybe declutter, depersonalize. That is a critical component of the process, and I would say that's more usual than not.
Yeah. So Camelia, what do you normally take time-wise before getting it ready? Let's just say it's not totally show ready, but it's not, don't need to do a lot of major repairs or anything like that. Is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? How long is a normal time to get it ready for us to show up and take photos?
Sure. Well, it's a good question to ask because, buyers want to know how quickly can we get on the market. We've made our decision, we're selling. I like to tell everybody I can do a coming soon listing. All I need is the front picture of the photo and, input into the MLS. And we like to let that be kind of the buffer between when we actually can get the photos, the house ready, and actually launch. So different PPAR down where I'm at, we list in the Denver MLS as well, but they have different time frames. So we have a week to 2 week buffer sometimes there. But one of the things I don't like to do is launch when we're not ready. And I think that's harmful to the sale and to the whole process. And so we sit down together and build out a strategy, and every client is different. I think the soonest we have launched a property is 5 days, and that is very difficult to do, but you're not completely ready because you haven't been able to order your brochures, and usually you can't get your video and photography done and back and all set to launch. So I like to tell my clients 2 weeks, but that's if the house is really ready. They're living in kind of in a show ready. Mm-hmm. We like to do pre-home inspections. There's a lot of things that we like to do and hit the market well. 2 weeks is really what we shoot for, but the average seller, I would say on my end, it's usually 30 days from the time we first meet to the time we launch, because that gives them, I don't want to add needless stress on the seller, but everybody gets their own strategy built out from a timing perspective based on where they're at.
Okay. Anybody else have any other tips for people looking to get on the market right away after the first of the year?
If you were going to want to be on the market in the beginning of Colorado spring, right now, all of the swimming suits and the flip-flops and all of those summer items can definitely be packed away. Most buyers are very forgiving, I guess would be the right word. If you have a garage full of boxes, they see that you are ready to move and that you are, a serious seller. So you can certainly pack those up and put extra items in the garage and be ready and have everything decluttered as best as possible.
Yeah, so you could start that now, even during the holiday period. You could get that going so that you have less stuff to do once we get to the first of the year. Correct, Debbie?
Absolutely. One of the things that I often will help my sellers with is I will do like these little colored dots and provide that to the seller. And then the seller can go around and say, okay, I'm not going to need this. This is a red dot, and they can basically go through the entire house. And then it's easy for them to identify what items they do want to get packed up and get ready to go. Things that have green dots or things that are very important that they still can pack up. And it's also very important in a scenario like that the seller label the boxes very clearly of what the contents are. So if that property does stay on the market for 30 days or more, they do have available and understand what is in each box. So if they need something, they can get it.
And I know these ladies are being modest, but I didn't hear anybody say, this is the time you need to be talking to me, because I can get you ready. And I see foreheads nodding if you're listening to this on audio, because, they're the ones who can help you make the priorities as to what you need to do if you really need to get on the market right away, and how you can get there as quickly as possible and yet still not launch too early for the year. So I think this is a good time to start thinking about the beginning of the year, even if you're not thinking January, maybe it's February or March, to really start thinking about it. Jessica, did you want to say something? You look like you were...
Oh, yes. I mean, it's always kind of historically in my business been that people start reaching out to me, end of November, beginning of December. Hey, we're thinking about making a move. We want to move here. We have to go here. And I really like the month of February actually for sellers. So it kind of gets you through your holiday season and gets you time to pack up, prepare properly. And some of the most highest sales prices that I've seen have happened in February.
Well, you have a lot less inventory, so you have less competition than if you waited 2 or 3 months and now you're into April, May, and the inventory's gone up. So that really makes a difference too. So it's a good time to look at potentially selling your home or buying your home if you're looking this time during the holidays. Last week, we talked about what you do as a tenant to get your security deposit back. And this week, we want to flip that around and talk about as a landlord to make sure that if the tenant does something wrong, that they can actually keep that security deposit to help with those repairs. So joining us again is Greg Batchelor from Real Property Management to help us figure all this out. So what do I need to do as a landlord to make sure I protect myself?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rick. So the first thing I'm going to throw out there is going to sound really familiar because it's the same piece of advice that I gave last week when we were talking about tenants protecting themselves. Landlords need to protect themselves. Take lots of pictures. There's one way to avoid a lot of the messes that can go along with security deposits. That's just to document the condition. And if you know the condition when a tenant moves in, that is going to be your absolute best case scenario to be able to document. When a tenant is trying to say, well, no, I didn't cause that damage. Well, it's pretty easy for you to go back to a picture from a year ago and say, oh, yes, here's that wall that you're saying you didn't cause the damage. Well, here's what it looked like when you moved into the property. So that's the first thing. Document the condition.
Yeah, before you move on, should they do that on the day they move in? Because it doesn't do you any good if you do it 2 weeks beforehand, right? Because they could say, correct. Well, so you want a date stamped right at least as close to the lease date as possible, correct?
Absolutely the case. Yeah, because that damage, if it is 2 weeks before, then damage could have occurred during that time. But if you are taking pictures on the day before the lease starts and a tenant is moving in, that's going to be a little more compelling to document in front of a judge should a security deposit get challenged. So that's the number one thing, document it. Number two is make sure that you understand the intricacies of that. There's a lot of people from a landlord standpoint that think that security deposit is theirs. Well, it's not.
Okay.
It's actually the tenant's monies, it's their funds, and it's to ensure performance of that lease agreement. And so from that particular standpoint, making sure that you understand that it is the tenant's money unless there has been damage, which fits into the same categories we talked about last week: negligence, carelessness, accident, abuse, those kinds of things. So making sure a landlord knows and understands that. And then the last thing is making sure that you have documented the right things in your lease. So Colorado law gives landlords up to 60 days to return a security deposit, but you have to specify that in the lease. If the lease does not specify that, then it defaults to 30 days. So making sure that you're handling that correctly, putting as much of that in the lease, absolutely imperative. And then last but not least, Colorado law is very specific that if a tenant challenges you in courts on their security deposit, and during that time, the judge awards in their favor, then you are on the hook for what's called treble damages, meaning triple. So if someone has, and it can be a bad day in court, so you've got a $2,500 security deposit, and a judge rules in favor of that tenant, then not only do you have to give the $2,500 back, but now you are getting fined $7,500, and so that's a $10,000 swing in a bad morning in court.
And do you expect landlords to keep that money in a separate account so it's there and it doesn't sneak up on them that somebody moves out, now they want their security deposit back and you haven't saved it, you spent it? How do you advise?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do advise tenants get a separate account.
You mean landlords?
Leave those landlords, sorry.
Yeah.
Have the landlords have a separate account that the tenant's security deposit goes from them, goes into that account, and then it just sits there, and it's that way doesn't accidentally get spent or doesn't get spent in the need of an emergency or whatever the case may be. It is there to ensure the performance of the lease that was signed.
But you don't have to have that lease or that security deposit actually, if it makes money in an interest-bearing account, you don't have to pay the interest to the tenant, do you?
You do not. Now, there are rules pertaining to property management companies in, for instance, Boulder County, where if we do operate, which we do not operate in Boulder County, but property management companies that do, you are required to put those in an interest-bearing account, and then the interest does go back to the tenants. But for an individual investor, you are not required to have trust accounts, non-interest-bearing accounts, et cetera.
Well, that sounds great. Next week, why don't we talk about periodic inspections of your property as a landlord so that you don't get to the end of the year and there's an issue and the issue's actually been there for 6 months. Want to go through that next week?
Absolutely. That is such an important piece of the rental equation, and we'll talk about that next week.
Sounds great. If you want to talk to Greg, feel free to reach out to him at the number on the screen. And as always, appreciate you joining us every week. Thanks, Greg.
My pleasure, Rick. Have a super day.
You too. Many people think about staging. They think about the bedrooms. They think about the living room, all that sort of stuff, maybe even the front. But most people don't think about staging your kitchen. And I think that's probably one of the most important areas. What do they say? Kitchen and baths are important. So we're going to talk today about staging your kitchen and what you need to do and what you don't want to do, if there are any of those. And we're going to start with Carrie on this one. What do you think?
Oh, thank goodness, Rick, because I sure have a big pet peeve when it comes to kitchens. For me, the most important thing, obviously, is decluttering. But please, please, please clean out your oven and your microwave. It's one of those things where if my client is super interested and we open that oven and it's a mess, it just kind of makes me think, well, if this has deferred maintenance, what else has deferred maintenance? It's an easy clean. I know you've got a lot going on as a seller, but for me, I would rather have that clean than maybe some linen closet decluttered. There's only a certain amount of time that sellers have to get ready. And for me, that is definitely a priority in the kitchen.
And Jessica, what's a tip that you have for staging your kitchen?
For me, it's the refrigerators,
Okay.
actually, because people will open those up. Buyers love to look in refrigerators, make sure, it functions. Sometimes they, just want to know that what kind of refrigerator the house is coming with, if it is. And there's nothing worse than a stinky and kind of yucky refrigerator. So definitely, get the old food out, put some baking soda in there, clean it up, shine it up, make it look nice, because that could be somebody's refrigerator in a couple of weeks or months.
So, Debbie, are there things you add?
Yes, I really like to see all of the appliances off of the kitchen counter and tucked away, preferably if they do have a pantry, maybe make a shelf for that. And then I actually come in and have things that are very clean, that have never been used before. It just gives that fresh look. And of course, cleanliness is key. But I also like to have a large bowl of fresh lemons. It gives a bright and airy feel to the kitchen. And I think that it makes it very enticing to think about how it would be and what the experience would be like to actually cook in the kitchen.
So, Camelia, do you recommend taking everything out of the kitchen? Because I've seen that happen where I'll walk in to take a photo and it's like there's nothing on any of the counters. Is that something you recommend or not?
You're right. No, I don't recommend that. So you really want a kitchen to be welcoming, like this is the kitchen you're going to be cooking in and having family dinners in and things like that. So you definitely want it to, just like the rest of your house, feel homey. Even a vacant home, we suggest if the home is going to be vacant, we put some linens in the kitchen, put some utensils by the stove, maybe a cookbook and some things like that, just to make it feel like a kitchen, bring a sense of personality and warmth to it. One thing about a kitchen, I would say, is a kitchen being clean is probably my biggest pet peeve. So the sink and the garbage disposal area down the drain, but just a clean kitchen, a kitchen should be clean. They should be sanitary. So I think doing a deep clean in the kitchen, especially under the sink. And that's the number one place people will look, is under your kitchen sink. So I pull everything out, clean it, put it back in, minimally put it back in. But yes, a clean kitchen, definitely you want some staging, even if the house is going to be vacant. So yeah, kitchens are very, very important.
Everybody's got the soap and the dishwasher soap and the sponges on their counters. That's how we live in a home. But my preference is let's hide those, maybe the paper towels, let's put them away for the photographs, because it's just going to accentuate that gorgeous countertop that you have. Like you said, we're going to see the clear cleanliness of the kitchen versus some of the, let's just call it clutter. And that even translates to a bathroom as well. We all have toothbrushes, we all have soap, but let's put those away for the photographs. You can get them out when we start showing, but it just gives those clean lines that look fantastic in pictures.
One of my rules is if you don't see it in a model home, then it shouldn't be in your home when we take the pictures, and oftentimes even when you're doing showing. Jessica, do you have any other tips how about the cabinets? What should you do with them?
Well, cabinets and pantries are very, very important to just have minimal. I prefer minimal. If you have a ton of glassware and plates, that you don't need to use daily, please pack those away. Just clean it up. And then same thing goes for the pantry. Just, minimize as much as you can without, encroaching on your daily living.
So, Debbie, that goes to make everything look big, right?
Yes, and I think the sight lines, when you're talking about photography and staging and just the overall idea of staging, you really want to look at sight lines. What is going to block the camera's view from the point of where the camera sits to the very farthest reaches of that photograph? So if there's large pieces of furniture or large pieces of pottery or something, maybe on an island, if that's blocking the view to the backsplash or to that beautiful sink arrangement, those are the kinds of things that I really focus on when I'm trying to get ready for the photography and the staging itself.
What do you say, Camelia, about stuff on the refrigerators?
Sure. Good point. So refrigerators, no one's buying the pictures that grandkids have made for you or your children or Christmas cards. So we want to take everything off that refrigerator so that they can see the beautiful refrigerator that they are purchasing. Remembering there's an art and science behind selling. And when a consumer comes into your home, they're not here to buy your stuff, your things. And so we really want them to see the house for what it is in its best possible light. So yes, taking everything off the refrigerator, polishing it or cleaning it. Just Jessica mentioned earlier about cleaning the inside of the refrigerator and the outside. So I can't stress enough how important it is for them to feel like it's their refrigerator, their home, their kitchen. We're really transferring ownership from that first experience online when they see it and when they physically show up. We are trying to accomplish something. That's why we do staging and marketing. There really is an art and science behind it. So realtors who have been in the business and trained, listening to them, listening to what they're asking you to do, even if it's that one more thing. Oh my gosh, I cleaned my whole kitchen. Now I have to clean my fridge. Yes, we are asking you to do that because it comes back in dollars for you.
And Carrie, sometimes people, when I've noticed, because depending on your height, you forget about the top of the fridge.
Absolutely. It just goes back to that deep clean. And I might say something here that might be a little controversy, but if you have a breakfast bar, my preference is not to have all the little silverware and placemats and things like that. My preference is definitely to have the bar stools there that show that this is a usable space. But again, as Camilla mentioned, we're not selling stuff. We're selling this gorgeous countertop that we really want to highlight and accentuate. If there is a dining room, a formal dining room, or an eat-in area, that might be the place to have that extra silverware and plate setting so you can get that feeling of home. But in my personal preference, I live by the concept less is more, and we just want to highlight the features of the home that we're actually selling.
And I've had different agents have different opinions on this. Debbie, what do you think about pet bowls, which are usually in the kitchen?
I always hide them.
You do? In person too? I know for photos we do, but what about in person?
For photos, I feel like it typically has a lot of food around it, or the dog is drank out of the water bowl and now there's water on the floor. So I just feel like it's a little bit of a distraction. So typically I will ask the seller to kind of put that away. I also think that for some people that do not want to have pets in the home, it also kind of, especially in photos, it gives them the sense that, oh, this has got a dog or a cat or whatever, birds, whatever. So it does limit your buyer experience, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, and we've talked cabinets, we've talked counters. Jessica, what about flooring and floors?
Oh, absolutely. Do a great clean on your floors. Try to get, any signs of your food off the floor. Polish them up. Baseboards are equally important. That's more for showings. You can't see things like that in the photos exactly, but definitely, once you have the photos taken, if you weren't able to clean it before that, then let's get it cleaned by the showings. That's how I advise my sellers.
Any other tips on kitchens? Anybody? Debbie?
I think windows are very key also. This is going to show, especially depending on the time of the day that the photography is done or that the showings occur. So dirty windows are really very, very distracting, especially for photography, but in showings as well.
Just one more thing, trash cans. So a lot of people have trash cans that not under their sink. They have it more at the end of the counter, a step pedal one that opens automatically. I would say the same rule applies to the trash can as would apply to the dog bowl. And I think just having it out of sight, out of mind, it's less is more. I thought that's a really great point from Carrie. Having all those ancillary things out. But if you do have a pull-out trash can in the kitchen, as people are going around opening the doors, a lot of times that is the most disgusting cabinet that you open. It's where the trash can is. So take the trash cans out, clean that whole space. Very few people take the time to clean it because you just don't see it, right? You just open the drawer, throw stuff in, close it. You don't realize splashes and different things like that. So trash cans, yeah, pay attention if that one happen.
Debbie?
Rick,
So I just think that it's so important to have your agent or a stager, or maybe the agent hires a stager to do a walkthrough, because as a seller, you're living in that space and you don't see half the things that you're just like, it's almost like being nose blind, when you have perfume on and then you don't smell it anymore. You definitely do not see the nicks in the wall, the dirty area around the dog bowl or whatever. So it's so important to have those fresh set of eyes come through and really nitpick, which I realize is kind of hard sometimes for sellers to adopt, I guess, because it seems or can seem a little critical, but it's really for your best benefit, and it really does come back to dollars, and that's what's going to bring the most highest best price for your property.
Carrie, you were going to say something?
well, for those out there that are listening, this can all seem very overwhelming, but this is the one thing that I think is critically important is let's focus on the kitchen. You might not be able to get that primary bedroom or the closets cleaned out or, the garage, all these different variables that we've talked about over the past few weeks here. The kitchen, in my opinion, is where you really want to focus your time, your energy, and your cleaning.
Who is in favor of keeping the rugs in the kitchen? Nobody wants to keep the rugs. The ones that I don't like are those thick mats that you usually have at the sink, because it just makes me think they're dirty. I don't know. There's something about them, even if they're plastic, because you're doing all your dishes around them. So we're all going to pull up the mats. You're also not selling the mats. You're selling the floors and the flooring. But it might be something that you want to think about doing sooner rather than later, because I've seen it where those mats have been in the same spot for years, and now your flooring has faded around where those are. So you want to think about that as well. Jessica?
Yes, when it comes to all of these, preparation type of tips, just accept your agent's advice. You hired your real estate agent to come there to your home and advise you the best way to get the house ready for the buyers who are going to come there and envision themselves in that space. And so don't take offense to any of the advice we bring to you, because that's what we're there for.
And Camelia, I know one of your pet peeves that you try and do is lighting. So that's probably getting that ready as well and making sure everything matches, right?
Right. So there is nothing more irritating to me than to go into a house. And I don't care if you live this way, but just don't show your house this way. The last house I wrote an offer on, we're getting ready to close this week, had 3 colors of light bulbs in the ceiling cans in the kitchen. So there were 9 cans, and there were blue, there were yellow, and then there was daylight, which is bright white. Light bulbs in that kitchen, and then the light fixture over the dining area, it was just right off the kitchen. They had 2 light bulbs missing. I think there were 5 and there were 2 missing. So in my opinion, that is the cheapest and easiest thing that you can do to bring uniformity to a kitchen and to a house in general. So I have my clients go through the entire house and make sure all the bulbs are the same color per room, right? So yes, Rick, you know that about me, I'm a little stickler on the lights because it makes a big difference. People will notice that, and it just feels odd. It feels unfinished, and just attention to detail. Every buyer is looking to buy a house that was well cared for, the staging was well thought through, the presentation. It has an effect, even if it's subconscious, it has an effect on the buyer and how they feel about your house, how much they want to spend on your house, how excited they are to be the owner of your house. All these little things have an effect on the subconscious and conscious of the consumer. So our job as agents is not to come in and create work for you. It's actually to create value for your home so that you can sell it for the most money possible. So I would say definitely listen to your agent, but just know your agent does come with resources. There are people who will come in and help you clean your house, who will help you declutter. There are resources available for people who are overwhelmed. If you've lived in your house for 50 years versus 1 year, the task at hand is going to be different. So we do have resources that we can pull in alongside to help make those activities not as cumbersome. So.
And one of the lights that most people don't think about because it burned out 10 years ago is the one above the stove. And so keep that in mind. And because we always like to turn it on for the photos, it may not be necessary for in-person showings, but try that light in your hood light and make sure it's still working and that they're the same color temperature. So there are a lot. These are a lot of great tips that we've been talking to you about. Probably the easiest one for you to remember is just call somebody who's a pro like these four ladies, because they'll do a lot of this for you. And like Debbie was saying, they'll see things you couldn't see even if you were looking at it. We see that all the time. One of the things we find is with lights. I'll walk through and even these ladies will have walked through and turned on lights, and I'll always find one or two that are off because that's what I'm looking for, but they're looking for all the different things in the room, as are you. So, we all see what we want to see, and a lot of times we don't even see what's in front of us, and they're trained to actually look at this by doing it year after year. So this has been a great discussion about how to stage your kitchen. Jessica has a great home for us today, and this is out at 1571 Arrow Point Court in Franktown, Colorado, and it's a 5-bedroom, 5-bath, 5,026 square foot home. Tell us about this home, Jessica.
Oh, this one is absolutely incredible. It's a custom home that is now move-in ready. Construction just completed 2 weeks ago. It has luxury features such as heated floors in the primary bathroom, cabinets that go to the ceiling, under cabinet lighting, all kinds of just beautiful details throughout the property. It sits on 2 acres on well and septic, and it's in a gated community. It is a ranch style home with a fully finished basement, has a radon system. It is absolutely stunning. It faces south towards the absolutely gorgeous views of Castlewood Canyon. Franktown is really kind of up and coming as where a lot of people are wanting to go to get some more space to breathe and also have a community.
Well, the kitchen looks awesome. I love that primary bath. What a great home. And sitting on 2 acres at that. That's really amazing. That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And bonus, it is going to get, it's professionally landscaped already, and it's going to get front and backyard sod as soon as the weather cooperates.
Well, that's awesome. If you want to take a look at this home, please feel free to give Jessica a call. I'm sure she'd love to show it to you. Thanks, Jessica. Well, it's been another great show today, as always. I appreciate Carrie and Camelia and Debbie and Jessica joining me today to talk about staging and selling. It's an important thing for you to do to get their advice. I would talk to them. Here are their numbers here on the screen, and you can call them at any time. Well, maybe not at 2 a.m., but call them during daytime hours, and they'd love to talk to you about your property, whether you're looking to sell or if you're looking to buy a property. And if you have other questions about real estate, we have lots of great resources. This is our 20th episode, so we have 19 other episodes up on theproshow.com for you to take a look at that has lots of great content. And once again, I appreciate everybody being here today. See you next week.